Stop the tape. Those 3 words from Dr. Phil McGraw cut through the studio like a knife. The cameras froze. The audience went completely silent. In his hand, a sealed white envelope containing DNA test results that would shatter everything a 43-year-old woman thought she knew about her family. What happened next would become one of the most emotional moments in the show's 20-year history. But to understand why Dr. Phil stopped everything, we need to go back 3 weeks earlier. Jennifer Morrison had written to the Dr. Phil show with what seemed like a straightforward family mystery. At 43, she'd always felt like the odd one out in her family. Her 2 siblings had dark hair and olive skin like their parents. Jennifer was blonde with fair skin and blue eyes. Family gatherings always included the same awkward jokes. "Are you sure you weren't switched at the hospital?" Everyone laughed. Jennifer didn't. The real turning point came 6 months before her letter to Dr. Phil. Jennifer's mother had passed away from cancer. While sorting through her belongings, Jennifer found a locked metal box hidden in the back of her mother's closet. Inside were letters, documents, and a faded photograph of a man Jennifer had never seen before. The letters were addressed to her mother, signed by someone named Michael. They spoke of love, regret, and a secret that had been buried for decades. One letter, dated 1980, the year before Jennifer was born, ended with a sentence that made Jennifer's blood run cold. "I understand your decision. I'll stay away. But know that I'll always love our daughter." Jennifer's hands trembled as she read those words. Our daughter. Not their daughter. Our daughter. When Jennifer confronted her father about the letters, he broke down. Through tears, he admitted that Jennifer's mother had been briefly separated from him in 1980. She'd had a relationship with another man. When she discovered she was pregnant, she'd returned to her husband, and they'd agreed never to speak of it again. "We decided you were mine," Jennifer's father told her. "Biology doesn't matter. I raised you. I love you. You're my daughter." But to Jennifer, biology did matter. For 43 years, she'd felt different because she was different. The man she called Dad wasn't her biological father. Somewhere out there was a man named Michael who had no idea his daughter existed. That's when Jennifer wrote to Dr. Phil. The show's producers were immediately drawn to Jennifer's story. It had everything: family secrets, identity crisis, and the potential for resolution through DNA testing. They located Michael through public records. He was 68 years old, living in Colorado, never married, no other children. When producers reached out, he was stunned. "I always wondered," Michael told them over the phone. "But Sarah, Jennifer's mother, told me she decided to stay with her husband and that the baby wasn't mine. I believed her. I stayed away like she asked." The show arranged for both Jennifer and Michael to take DNA tests. The results would be revealed on air. Standard Dr. Phil protocol: build the drama, open the envelope, deal with the emotional fallout. Everyone thought they knew how this would go. They were wrong. The day of taping started normally. Jennifer sat in the guest chair, visibly nervous. Dr. Phil reviewed her story with the audience, showing photos of her childhood, explaining the family dynamic. Michael was backstage, waiting for his cue. The DNA results were in a sealed envelope on Dr. Phil's desk. "Jennifer," Dr. Phil said, leaning forward in his chair, "I want you to understand something before we open these results. Regardless of what this paper says, your father, the man who raised you, is still your father. Biology is one thing. But love, commitment, showing up every day? That's what makes a parent." Jennifer nodded, tears already forming. "I know. But I need to know the truth." Dr. Phil picked up the envelope. The studio was dead quiet. Cameras zoomed in on Jennifer's face. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. But as Dr. Phil opened the envelope and began reading, his expression changed. His usual confident demeanor shifted. His eyes widened. He looked from the paper to Jennifer, then back to the paper. Then he did something he rarely does on camera. He paused. For a full 5 seconds, Dr. Phil McGraw was speechless. "Hold on," he said quietly. Then, louder, "Stop the tape." The studio erupted in confused murmurs. Producers rushed toward the stage. This wasn't in the script. Jennifer's face went pale. "What is it?" she asked, her voice breaking. "What does it say?" Dr. Phil stood up, folded the paper, and looked directly at the nearest producer. "Get Michael out here. Right now. And someone needs to call the father in Texas. We need him on a video call immediately." Nobody in that studio understood what was happening. But Dr. Phil had just read something that changed everything. Subscribe and leave a comment, because the most powerful part of this story is still ahead. Michael was brought out from backstage, confused about why the protocol had been broken. He was a tall, gray-haired man with kind eyes and Jennifer's exact same nose. As he walked onto the stage, Jennifer stood up instinctively. They stared at each other, separated by just a few feet and 43 years of lost time. "Michael," Dr. Phil said, his voice unusually gentle, "I need you to sit down for what I'm about to tell you." The audience was completely silent. You could hear the hum of the studio lights. "Jennifer," Dr. Phil continued, turning to her, "we ran your DNA against Michael's DNA. And the results confirm what your mother's letters suggested. Michael is your biological father. There's a 99.9% probability." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. Michael covered his mouth with his hand. The audience gasped. This was the expected outcome, the emotional moment they'd all anticipated. But Dr. Phil wasn't finished. "But we also ran a standard ancestry DNA analysis as part of the test," Dr. Phil said, his voice measured and careful. And something unexpected showed up. He looked at both Jennifer and Michael. "Jennifer, your DNA shows a match to someone else in the database. A close match. A sibling match." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. "I don't understand," Jennifer said. "I have 2 siblings. From my mom and from the man I thought was my dad." "Not them," Dr. Phil said. "A different sibling. A half-sibling. Through Michael." Michael's face went white. "That's impossible. I've never had any other children. I've never even been married." Dr. Phil sat down heavily in his chair. "Michael, I need to ask you something, and I need you to think very carefully. In 1979, before you met Jennifer's mother, did you donate to a sperm bank?" The question seemed to come from nowhere. Michael blinked, confused, then his expression shifted to recognition. "Oh my God! Yes. I was in college. I needed money. I donated maybe 4 or 5 times. It was at a clinic in Denver. But that was over 40 years ago. Michael, Dr. Phil said slowly, your donations resulted in at least 1 successful pregnancy. The person who shares Jennifer's DNA is a woman named Rachel, born in 1980 in Boulder, Colorado. She's been searching for biological family for years. When Jennifer's DNA entered the system, it pinged a match. Nobody had seen this coming. Not Jennifer. Not Michael. Not the producers. This wasn't just about a secret affair anymore. This was about a man who had unknowingly fathered multiple children. Jennifer sat down, overwhelmed. I have a sister? A half-sister, Dr. Phil confirmed. Rachel is 43 years old, just like you. Born 3 months after you. She was raised by 2 mothers who used donor sperm to conceive. She's been looking for her biological father her entire adult life. Michael was crying now, silent tears running down his face. I had no idea. When you donate, they don't tell you if anything comes from it. I needed the money. I never thought. Dr. Phil stood and walked over to Michael, placing a hand on his shoulder. Michael, this isn't your fault. You made a choice 44 years ago to help people who wanted children. That's a good thing. But now you're facing the reality of that choice. He turned to address the entire studio. This is what I mean when I say DNA testing has changed everything. We're discovering family connections that previous generations never knew existed. And it's complicated. It's messy. But it's real. Then Dr. Phil made a decision that nobody expected. Jennifer, Michael, he said. We have Rachel on video call right now. She's watching from her home in Colorado. She knows about the match. She knows you're here. The question is, do you want to meet her? The studio held its collective breath. Jennifer looked at Michael. Michael looked at Jennifer. In that moment, they weren't thinking about DNA percentages or sperm donations or family secrets. They were thinking about a woman named Rachel who'd spent 43 years wondering where half of her DNA came from. Yes, Jennifer said, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, I want to meet her. Michael nodded, unable to speak. Dr. Phil gestured to the production team, and a large screen descended from the ceiling. Within seconds, a woman's face appeared. She had Michael's eyes and Jennifer's smile. Rachel was sitting in what looked like her living room, tears streaming down her face. Hi, Rachel said, her voice shaking. I've been waiting my whole life for this moment. What happened next broke every person in that studio. Jennifer stood and walked toward the screen. You look like me, she said, laughing through tears. You have his eyes. And my chin. I can't believe this is real. I have so many questions, Rachel said. But mostly I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for taking the test. Thank you for searching. I've felt incomplete my entire life. Like half of me was missing. Michael stood up and approached the screen. Rachel, he said, his voice cracking, I didn't know you existed. But now that I do, I want you to know something. You were wanted. Maybe not by me directly, but by your mothers who chose to bring you into this world. And now I want to know you. If you'll let me. Rachel nodded, unable to form words. Dr. Phil, standing off to the side, wiped his own eyes. In 20 years of hosting this show, he'd seen thousands of emotional moments. But this one was different. This wasn't about confrontation or dramatic reveals. This was about three people discovering they were family. Share and subscribe. Make sure this story is never forgotten. The video call lasted for another 30 minutes after taping officially ended. Jennifer and Rachel exchanged phone numbers, Instagram handles, and promises to meet in person. Michael booked a flight to Colorado for the following week. They talked about their lives, their careers, their favorite foods, and all the small details that make up a person. Before the call ended, Rachel said something that stayed with everyone in that studio. My whole life, people asked me if I was curious about my donor. And I always said yes, but more than that, I was curious about siblings. I wanted to know if there was someone out there who shared my DNA. Someone who might understand me in a way nobody else could. And now I know. She's been out there all along. Jennifer reached toward the screen as if she could touch her sister through the pixels. We have 43 years to catch up on, she said. But we have the rest of our lives to do it. After the call ended and the studio audience left, Dr. Phil sat down with Jennifer and Michael privately. I want you both to understand something, Dr. Phil said. This is going to be complicated. Jennifer, you're going to have to navigate relationships with your dad in Texas, with Michael, and with Rachel. Michael, you're going to have to figure out what being a father means at 68 when you've never had that role before. And Rachel will have her own journey with this. But here's what I know after 20 years of doing this show, family isn't just biology. It's choice. It's showing up. It's loving people even when it's hard. Your family just got bigger today. That's not a burden. That's a gift. Jennifer pulled a small bracelet from her purse. It was a simple silver chain with a tiny compass charm. My mom gave this to me when I was 16. She said, no matter where life takes you, you'll always find your way home. I think I finally understand what she meant. Home isn't a place. It's people. And today, I found more of my people. She handed the bracelet to Dr. Phil. Can you give this to Rachel when you meet her? I want her to have it. I want her to know she's found her way home too. Dr. Phil held the bracelet carefully, understanding the weight of what it represented. I'll make sure she gets this. And I'll make sure she knows what it means. 6 months later, Dr. Phil received a photo. Jennifer, Rachel, and Michael stood together in Colorado, arms around each other. The letter with it read, Jennifer's dad welcomed Rachel into the family. Rachel's mother supported everything. Michael became a father by choice, not obligation. We talk every day. We discovered we both love terrible reality TV, hate cilantro, and have the same laugh. Thank you for stopping the tape. Thank you for helping us find each other. Dr. Phil kept that letter as a reminder. This is why he does what he does. For moments when people discover they're not alone. When families form in unexpected ways. When love transcends biology. The episode sparked nationwide conversation about DNA testing and donor conception. Rachel started Finding Half, a non-profit helping donor-conceived people find siblings. Jennifer volunteered. Michael became an advocate, speaking at conferences. The compass bracelet became their symbol, a reminder that searching your past can reveal your future. And it all started because Dr. Phil stopped the tape. Because he understood that some moments matter more than television protocols. That behind every DNA test is a life waiting to change. Jennifer found her father and gained a sister. Michael discovered 2 daughters. Rachel found her missing piece. And everyone learned that family is complicated, messy, and worth fighting for. The truth about Jennifer's family history turned out to be bigger than anyone imagined. Not just an affair. Not just a secret. But a web of connections stretching across decades and states, bringing together people who were always meant to know each other. Sometimes the truth hurts. But sometimes, the truth heals. And in this case, the truth gave 3 people something they'd all been searching for their entire lives: each other.